Press the wrong fucking button. Trust you, motherfucking ape. I'm going live now because I need to vent a little bit. I just put some shit out there. So I'm not dwelling on it all night. And because I have to return this hotspot tomorrow, so I'm not sure if I'll get another chance to use it. I was supposed to return it today, but didn't get a chance to. So yeah, today was something else. I'll tell you what. A couple of things came up. I've been feeling pretty positive lately, and so I'm just waiting for that other shoe to drop. But I had a couple situations. So one was with this person I was seeing, and I just reached out today because I was a little concerned about them. I didn't see them in the usual meeting place, and I just wanted to make sure they were okay and see if they wanted to talk, because we haven't talked in a couple days, at least not directly to one another, right? And so I reached out earlier, and they were kind of, a little hesitant. And I was like, well, hey, it's up to you. If you want to talk, cool. If you don't want to talk, I understand, and I offered up an apology for my behavior, whatever, however it might have been perceived, not that I feel necessarily that I did something wrong, but hey, if you took it a certain way, apologize for that, right? And so they're like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll call you later. And I just left it open-ended. I was like, cool, whatever, right? And then so they text me back this evening, oh, can I call you in a bit? I'm blah blah blah, doing this or that. And I was like, yeah, whatever, I'm just on my way home from the meeting, right? And then I get another text when I'm like halfway home. This is like maybe 20 minutes later, and they're like, oh, it's getting late. Can we have this conversation some other time or some shit like that? And I was like, I don't even know how to respond to this. Like, the ball's already in your court. You don't need, permission from me, right? Like, you can call or don't call, right? It's like, this is your choice. Like I said, I did my part. I'm not stressed on it, but I didn't know how to respond. So I just like gave him the thumbs up, over text emoji, like whatever. So meanwhile, while I'm at the meeting, right, like the weirdest fucking thing happened, or maybe I just read into shit like this, right? But so I get there, and I can already tell, like, a couple of people that I know were kind of acting strangely, right? Having a little, in a way that makes me a little suspicious. And I'm just, being my normal self. And so I'm sitting a row behind my friend, and I tap her on the shoulder, and I'm like, hey, what's up? She goes, oh, why are you sitting, back there? So I, came up and I sat next to her, and then we have the speaker going, and like halfway through the speaker talking, all of a sudden my friend like gets up and like fades away into the background. And this fucking just ginormous fucking chud, fucking sits next to me, fucking folds up his arm. He's all breathing heavy and all red in the face. And I'm like, whoa, dude, like there's some bad energy going on right there. I don't know what he was mad at, but it was clear he was like not in a good mood. And I'm like, okay. And I never saw my friend again after that. So I was like, I don't know what this dude's problem is, but it ain't my fucking problem, right? So I just respectfully, sat there and waited for the speaker to finish, and I picked up my shit and I just moved, moved the fuck over, like, get me the fuck away from this guy, right? So it was just a trip, man. I'm like still trying to figure out and process all of that, but like, I just gotta, keep my side of the street clean. That's where I'm at right now. I'm like, I don't have the mental energy to focus on whatever the fuck is going on over here, because it ain't got nothing to do with me. So that was the gist of my evening here. And it's important to remember, like, you're still dealing with people, right? And like, people got all kinds of weird issues that you don't know about. Maybe you don't even want to know about it, like, fuck them. If it's not your problem, don't make it your problem. That's today's lesson. So yeah, I was like, all right, I'm out. And It's been fucking interesting. I don't experience these types of things like everywhere I go. It's only with, certain crowds, certain people. It's like, maybe I'll just avoid those people. Maybe it'd be better for me that way. So Wild Hearts was doing a subscriber thank you stream over there. Just came from a few minutes ago. So go over there, hit the like button, and subscribe over at Wild Heart 2's channel. It's Wild Heart Resurrected 2, if I remember correctly. Oh, hey, Pixie. No worries. Thanks for coming by. Good night. Yeah, just saw Pixie over there too. They're having some interesting discussions. Yeah, you watch out. It may get you banned from YouTube. I don't know. You gotta be careful with that shit, or at least get the video, flagged or something. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue on my merry way. So I got two things I want to do. I was feeling unusually tired on the drive home, and then now that I'm in the door, I kind of got a little bit of a second wind. And tomorrow's Friday, so should be a good day. Oh, all right, cool. Good to see you, Pixie. Yeah, get some rest. I need to do that, but my sleep schedule's been all out of whack. So I'm doing another quick article here from Stoic Recovery. Links down in the description. And then I had a video in the watch later I wanted to jump on here. Not DeRoy. I'm going to take a break from DeRoy for a minute. But this is Seneca on the Happy Life, and it's published by John C. Gentner, February 6, 2018. And I think those are, anyway. In a letter, De Vita Beata on the Happy Life, Seneca writes to his friend Lucilius, "The happy life depends upon this and this alone, our attainment of perfect reason. For it is not but this that keeps the soul from being bowed down, that stands its ground against fortune. Whatever the condition of their affairs may be, it keeps men untroubled, and that alone is a good which is never subject to impairment. That man I declare is happy, whom nothing makes less strong than he is. He keeps to the heights, leaning upon none but himself, for one who sustains himself by any prop may fall. If the case is otherwise, then things which do not pertain to us will begin to have great influence over us. But who desires fortune to have the upper hand? Or what sensible man prides himself upon that which is not his own? Those of us who attain perfect reason, or at the very least are on the path, stand a chance at possessing the happy life. As a result of that, our lives will naturally begin to flourish. Reason, living in accordance with our nature, is the embodiment of excellence. Free exercise of wisdom, self-discipline, courage, and justice will bring us to a state of eudaimonia, or a truly good, fulfilling, and flourishing life, and by extension, true happiness. Unlike momentary pleasure, this happiness cannot be taken from us. Sometimes our life flourishes through the gifts of Fortuna, the goddess of fortune, luck, and fate. It shouldn't have to be said how fickle she can be. She gives one day, takes the next, with no regards as to whom she smiles upon or frowns upon. Therefore, true happiness cannot be achieved through external means. It can only come from within, in our actions and way of thinking. Likewise, true sadness can only come from within. A man should stand upright, not be held upright by the gifts of fortune. Whatever Fortuna has raised to the heights, she can revoke at any moment. In Part 3, Seneca goes on to define what the good life is and how it can be attained. What is the happy life? It is peace of mind and lasting tranquility. This will be yours if you possess greatness of soul. It will be yours if you possess the steadfastness that resolutely clings to a good judgment just reached. How does a man reach this condition? By gaining a complete view of truth, by maintaining in all that he does order, measure, fitness, and a will that is inoffensive and kindly, that is intent upon reason and never departs therefrom. that commands at the same time love and admiration. In short, to give you the principle in brief compass, the wise man's soul ought to be such as would be proper for a god. Sounds like a tall order, don't it? Hey, Christian Carpenter. Yeah, it's past my bedtime too, but thanks for coming by. Yeah, I will be getting ready for bed here soon. All right, now on to this. I think we covered a very short portion of this video before. Maybe I just started watching it and left it here. It's a few months old, but this is from Ligonier Ministries, and so a bit more sophisticated apologetics than what we've been watching recently. But I wanted to give this video a shake. This is the title is Thinking with a Discerning Mind. It will pop up now. Something like Only Two Religions. It's got kind of a lengthy title here. See if I can find it here. I think I went past it. It'll probably pop up if I do this. Professional live streaming. I'm clicking your face. It's completely frozen right now. Thinking with a Discerning Mind, Only Two Religions with Peter Jones. We're jumping in about 3 minutes. I don't think it's going to be necessary to roll it backwards, but we'll see. He's kind of getting just started here.
And so we need to have clear minds. Paul has in mind a massive transformation of human thinking. The only other time he uses this term transform is in 2 Corinthians 3:18. We all with unveiled faces beholding the glory of the Lord are being transformed. He's recalling Moses having his face transformed, but also recalls the glory of God revealed on another mount, the Mount of Transfiguration, where Jesus was transformed before them and his face shone like the sun. So Paul has in mind a radical transformation having to do with the glory of God revealed in a sinful world through good, sound thinking.
Yeah, I'd love to know why I'm having interruptions. My Wi-Fi is full. The video is buffered. All right, let's give it another second. Good sound thinking.
And so we're faced with two kinds of minds. It's an undiscerning mind that suppresses the truth. Such a commitment will mess up your mind. Knowing God is creator, but not honoring creator, but not honoring him as God will lead you to futile thinking, says the apostle, an undiscerning mind. The renewed mind sees antithesis.
I'm not. It's a little behind. If you know him as the creator but do not honor him as God, why would you deny a creator if you believed in it? Right? That doesn't make sense to me.
The battle between truth and falsehood. The undiscerning mind wants a cheap synthesis of a sort of meaningless wholeness, joining the opposites, which of course Paul denounces in Romans 1:25. I like to talk about that verse, the 18 words that changed the world.
And he's talking about the synthesis of two opposites. Is he talking about polytheism?
Exchanged the truth about God for the lie and worshipped and served the creature rather than the creator who is blessed forever. A brilliant person is able to condense in a very short scope the profound notions. And here I see Paul's pen is filled with kryptonite. The writing explodes off the page.
Kryptonite? You said Paul's pen is filled with kryptonite?
With incredible, simple complexity. And these 18
Simple complexity? Is that like a fucking oxymoron?
words contain incendiary ideas for the pagan world. Little wonder the Romans killed him. And Paul is essentially saying there are only two kinds of minds. There are only two ways of thinking. There's the transformed mind that has to be transformed because of sin and then understands who God is and worships and serves him. And then there's the undiscerning mind that makes nature God and serves creation and builds a worldview of oneism, which eventually...
Well, why would they call God's law natural law? Isn't that within the Christian worldview? So the laws of nature are designed and ordained by God. So nature would be an extension of God under that worldview. They just eliminate the character that we have no evidence of.
Implode because it's not based on the truth. And this is doubtless where you get this famous question, and it's really the only fundamental question you can ask. Does the world create itself, or is there a creator who creates it?
Neither. The earth is a product of natural processes, accumulation of many natural processes over many generations, right? And the term creation is already loaded, right? Creation implies creator. It's not just the end result, the product of processes that occur naturally.
It's the only question you can really ask about origins, and those are the two ways of thinking. Isn't that interesting? This is fundamental. Is the answer one or two? And it will affect the way you think about everything. As Paul shows in Romans.
Highly binary thinking process implies that there can't be more than two answers to this question. Okay, I guess.
One, the way you think about spirituality and theology and sexuality in particular. And we are now living in a world committed to a onist vision, a universal justice, pansexuality, interfaith. And we believe that we can produce a paradise of human flourishing where all people get along.
That sounds like the objective of humanism. Hey, Hillary's emails. Good to see you. Thank you for leaving a like. Listening to Richard's stream at the same time. Yeah, I was over there checking that out. They were pretty deep in it, though. So, thanks for coming by.
Pollyannish, isn't it? It fails to take into account sin and how undiscerning we really are about the true nature of the world. So that this
naturalist shut up or a governing deity, right? Even if you believe in a deistic God, that could still rule out the concept of sin. It's just, yeah, it's a non sequitur.
A delusional fantasy, and will become a planetary nightmare because based on the lie. Jesus himself said there are only two ways, the broad way and the narrow way. And the transformed mind to learn how to think about the world in the light of this fundamental truth that God is separate from us. God is not nature. God is the creator of nature. And of course, that will affect
by that
everything
logic,
we think in terms of
created nature, he created
theology, who
natural processes.
God. In terms of spirituality, we don't worship nature.
I swear it's making me hit the button twice. Right, he created the nature of man. Right. Therefore, he created man to be sinful. If sin is in the nature of man, which is biblical, right? Like, it doesn't make any type of sense. So there's no worship of nature. I mean, maybe there is in certain religious practices, right? But that's not implicit in naturalism. As far as I'm aware.
We worship the God who made nature. And in terms of sexuality, where we must celebrate the sexuality of distinction, not of sameness. That's part of this transformed mind.
So that's a jab against homosexuality, or you said pansexuality, or anything other than your standard heterotypical, is that right? Heterodox relationship.
I tried on you the two words I invented. I invent words once in a while. Heterocosmology and homocosmology. You know, we're faced with heterotheology, which is not a homotheology. A homotheology says that God is the same as us. Heterotheology emphasizes that God is different.
Is that what that means? I want to look it up. So, heterodoxy is not conforming with accepted or orthodox standards or beliefs. Let's see, hetero meaning. Oh, hetero does mean different or others. Okay, so that makes sense. Hey, big love, William Freeman. Good to see you. And Kelvy, good to see you as well.
We can engage hetero spirituality or a homo spirituality. We can worship God and we can worship ourselves because we're all the same. Or a heterosexuality or a homosexuality. Homosexuality embodies one spiritual notions of saint. Heterosexuality embodies God-inspired union in difference, a whole world of difference. Our thinking is affected as our see has shown down the years with such brilliance.
Yeah, it's really giving me a lot of grief playing this video tonight. Got good solid Wi-Fi and a good connection here. It's just lags out when I'm streaming, so apologies for that.
Two of them brings us sound minds. It teaches us a number of things that I'd like to display before you. First, theology, then meaning, morality, then redemption, then spirituality. Two is, in terms of theology, as I've been saying, affirms the creature. And that distinction makes it so obvious that God is the Lord, sovereign, transcendent, that there is such a thing as hierarchy of being, which of course is the basis of classic theology as we've learned. We celebrate the mystery of the great other. God is so totally other than us. That's the kind of God I want to worship.
It's also the base for eugenics, right? I mean, eugenicists believe that like the hierarchy dominance of particular races, right, or ethnicities would be like closer to a divine being or some shit like that, right? Genetically superior.
The way the God I see every morning turns me off. But the God who is ultimately mysteriously other is the kind of God I want to worship.
Do you just refer
And
to
of course,
himself as a god?
in this
That's interesting.
Tuist theology about, we find the place of the Trinity.
Oh, this is terrible. Okay. Now we're back in.
Because the Trinity is affirming distinction and unity at the same time, and God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit become each other. They remain distinct, and yet they are unified. And that's the doctrine of God that we have. It's a mysterious doctrine, but it is in its power.
It's not mysterious. It's complete nonsense. So you could have one unified being divided into three being the same but different. Like that's what does that even mean? It's yeah.
To preserve for us a God who is personal. And indeed, the very notion of preserves the notion of personhood. You cannot really extract personhood from an energy that goes through everything. A person has to be distinct from you in order to have a personal relationship with them. As soon as you try and crush that person and make that person part of you, you've lost personhood. Of course, that also means, as we move to who we are in the light of who God is, that's the basis of humanity, that we respect the other. There's no such thing as the mass of humanity all together and called to eventually disappear in a non-dual nirvana.
Nirvana. Interesting concept to bring in there, but no, like what is the issue with having respect and reverence for all humans, right? It's even in like a Christian worldview, right? You would still say that all humans are like children of the same God, the same deity, the same creator, right? That's part of your worldview. So that doesn't really make sense.
Human dignity recognizes the dignity of the other. This is so important in living on this, that we do that. Abortion doesn't do that, does it? Doesn't recognize the dignity of other little baby. From that undiscerning thinking in our time is just amazing. And this notion of distinction, you see, gives us a sense of calling, value in what we do. We are vices. We serve God other than us in the world, distinct from the world. Always creatures, never God. Always submit to God and to the structures. But in that we find.
But can you not just serve humanity? Why do you need a God to be of service to other humans? Oh yeah, Tobin, that was a link to the original video. I'm not going to be on too long. I'm trying to go through this quickly. Thank you for coming though. Now we can try and do a panel stream soon, but it is past my bedtime, so I'm not even supposed to be here right now. But I wanted to make use of the hotspot before I return it. So as useful as it is to me anyway. Christian Sodium Channel says the Trinity makes perfect sense. But I don't know what this guy's getting at, though. Yeah, all humans made in the image of God according to the doctrine. So I don't understand how he's saying that that we need God in order to. I mean, that should just be an inherent feature of the human condition that we should have, like I said, respect for our fellow humans. What divides humans seems to be, largely their God beliefs. So it seems like a kind of a paradox to me, but
Find our dignity well in our calling to work under God to have dominion. So, who God is will determine who we are. Isn't that interesting? It's in the end that if you want to really know who you are, who God is. So the rejection of means that people stop knowing who they are. A massive experiment to discover, and it always lies just in the future, flattened out a certain number of distinctions, maybe we'll all find some wonderful. But of course,
but what you're describing is like homogeneity, right? Like, and is that right? A homogeneous people, which isn't we find that as people go down like these journeys of self-discovery, especially in the humanist model, we become more and more diverse, and through diversity we flourish. Like not by being the same.
be true. The second area is meaning. How do we extract meaning from existence? How do we do this transform thinking?
Well, we don't extract meaning from existence. Existence doesn't necessarily have to have a meaning. We create meaning, right? Because we are capable of creating things because of the fact of our existence, right? So we can make art, we can design structures, we can do all these things, right? So yeah, I mean, as far as I understand, we're the closest thing to a god-like entity in the universe, right? Because we have this power to imagine and design things as purely a product of our interactions with the world around us.
In terms of meaning, I believe that it makes sense of the world. It makes sense of rationality. You remember the secular humanists believed in reason, but had no basis on which to found reason. But in two is God's mind, objective reference point.
Wait, reason is founded in logic. That's like the whole basis of use logical reasoning, right? You also use emotional reasoning, I guess. Let's see. But emotional reasoning would obviously be like flawed for a number of reasons. Logical reasoning, verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning. Verbal reasoning is the ability to understand and interpret information presented in words and to use logical reasoning to solve problems and draw conclusions. It involves analyzing information, making inferences, and identifying relationships between concepts. Nonverbal reasoning is the ability to understand and interpret information presented in numbers, letters, figures, or visual information, and to use logical reasoning to solve problems and draw a conclusion. Pretty much logic is involved in all of these. Logic is the basis. Deductive reasoning uses general truths or assertions to draw specific conclusions. It's often used in mathematical and logical problem solving. It's also known as top-down reasoning. For example, applying a known formula to different math problems of the same type. Conclusions reached via the deductive reasoning cannot be incorrect if the premises are true. Inductive reasoning. This type of reasoning uses specific observations and experiences to evaluate a situation and make a general assumption or theory. It involves starting from specific premises and forming a general conclusion. Abductive reasoning uses observations or groups of observations to reach a logical conclusion. It is similar to inductive reasoning, but it allows for making educated guesses to get the simplest conclusions. Abductive reasoning is often used when coping with uncertainty or when describing an observation or phenomenon for which the observer has limited or no prior knowledge. The conclusion of abductive reasoning may not always be certain and may require additional verification. But all of these require logic. The basis is logic. Buddhism is very interesting philosophy. I subscribe to a lot of that. One of the groups I go to every week is based in Buddhist principles and mindfulness practice. So I think it's very beneficial.
Condemned to human circulating, just affirming that things are without any ultimate reference point. Tourism gives us the notion of revelation, all that God, who is awesome, must reveal himself to us. We cannot function going within and asking ourselves who we are and what the world is all about. We will solve that problem. But in Revelation, we have a word for outside from the other. Not left with fallible insights from within, but given God's word about the nature of existence. A wonderful blessing. We have these people at the hotel called compassion.
That, as the dude once said, is just your opinion, man.
Some avatar group, I don't know who they exactly are, but I was walking along this morning with my Bible, and I thought, anyone stops me and they say, do you know anything about compassion? I say, yes, that's right here. And in tourism, we have the notion of meaningful history.
Can he cite a passage? Let's see. I'm actually going to help him here. They found 35 from Bible study tools. The Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and rich in love. That's not from the Bible, is it? Billy Graham, get the fuck out of here. They're just writings about the Bible. Oh, here's one. Compiled February 4th, 2015. Colossians 3:12. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Exodus 33:19. And the Lord said, I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you, and I will proclaim my name, the Lord, in your presence. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. Sounds a bit selective. Isaiah 30:18. Yet the Lord longs to be gracious to you. Therefore he will rise up to show you compassion. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him. All right. Well, we won't continue with that. But it's kind of self-centered, though. He doesn't promote like universal.
The genuine beginning, the cosmos is made, not constantly going around with matter is eternal. So it makes sense of history, of the fact that everything is history. And indeed, eschatology, there is a genuine end. The endless circle of reincarnation, there is a meaning to the universe. Taoism makes sense of morality. It explains what we all know, that there's such a thing as right and wrong. You go to somebody who says, I don't believe in you, punch him in the nose, he will quickly let you know what he thinks. Because morality is fundamental to us. As God, remember I said the wrath of God is revealed because it's an ethical universe. But it only makes sense if there is a God who is outside of it, who gives it meaning.
No, it can make perfect sense without a God. You still have two beings interacting in the natural world, and you can say that causes harm or decreases well-being. So you could still use well-being as the yardstick. There doesn't have to be a God to be a moral arbiter.
God's law is from the outside. It's an invention. And evil are distinct and must not be joined because their origin in God himself. Sin is not ignorance of our goodness, but an offense against the other, the creator. Holiness is knowing our rightful place. Distinguished from other places. Holy universe. The wealthy, you see, when you begin to use a transfind to think twisting about existence.
See, it's so interesting though, because this whole thing is talking about having to have a transformed mind. Transformed by what? Because according to these same people, God is intuitive, right? We are born knowing God, like with God in all of us. And yet your mind must be transformed in some way by what? By scripture, right? By teaching, by indoctrination, in order to make you believe these principles. So,
and then when you question of redemption, Hinduism answers the deep need. We all have of genuine salvation. We long for an efficacious, cannot save ourselves. It must be terrible to be in a world where you are convinced that only you can save yourself. I would go nuts if it all depends on me. I don't know how I make sense of the world. Redemption is not self-salvation, but the act creator for helpless sinners. And it brings freedom from guilt. I don't know what to do with guilt, except just live with it. But
that's interesting because, like, in recovery, we talk about like giving things over to a higher power or whatever, but ultimately you can't even accept forgiveness from others until you can learn to forgive yourself. So that seems to be a very unique problem here, that you have to ask or seek redemption from outside of yourself, right? Because if you don't believe that you are worthy or deserving of it, then you wouldn't be able to receive it anyway. So in his case, he needs to get it from God.
I mean, not well, but God, who is other holy, can deal with my guilt in his atoning work. As well, redemption, it's a love story. Those he saves. He loves the sinner. But it presupposes a person, God as person, to make any sense of redemption. Incarnation, of course, and I'll talk about this a little later, but the incarnation solves our problem by mysteriously bringing the human and the divine together. Finally, spirituality. And this is just a very view of a whole lifetime of ligatures on systematic theology. So R.C. will finish my simplistic overview, but I'm just trying to, this is the way into the profound, sane, discerning thinking of a trans mind that my dear brothers developed down the years. And so the final issue is spirituality. Prayer is not on one's divine self, but it is communion with the God. There is somebody who hears. If I that my spirituality, from what I was telling myself, I think I'd be of most men most miserable.
Well, I hate to burst your bubble there, because prayer is indeed just you talking to yourself in your head. No evidence that you have telepathic communication with any entity outside of you.
There's one part of spirituality that can only be practiced by tourists and rays. Don't you hate people who themselves? I mean, you want to go out of the room when they walk in and starts telling you how wonderful they are. Now, in oneism, you see, since all is one, if ever you praise something, you're praising yourself.
Oneism, a self-congratulatory pat on the back. All right, good night, Kelvy and Tobin. Good to see you. Ooh, a lot of conversation here in the side chat. Luciferianism teaches not to worship gods, but to transcend, to become a god. Like Mormonism. Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, I think if one is studying theology, they should study all religions and give them equal consideration. The only responsible way to do that. You're into it for like 20 years. Nice. Christian Sodium Channel also says, enlightenment isn't always useful, is what I've found. To be just a god when there is a supreme god more powerful than you is not a fun place to be, in my experience. So I don't see divisions as greed. I don't think the divisions I don't see as greed. Is more about conflicting ideology. Yeah. Sometimes within the same religious belief, right? Which is a really confusing part. If none are actually in truth, then they all have their desire to be right. Division versus diversity is a thin line. Only if we don't accept diversity, I think. That's the problem with religious ideology, right? They are intolerant of other ways of being. Tobin says, I don't think it's possible to be a god or that there is truth to the claims that gods exist. I don't think there's any evidence for it. By the nature of the definition of, of a prime being, there cannot be any other, nor can it be created. Infinite regress, right? The truth, the claim, and the usefulness of philosophy is what is important. There's more likely no prime being. That which is useful is open to all. That's why believing the gospel in Jesus rose from the dead to show death had no power, requires no enlightenment, no deep understanding, is open for all. I think the true gospel message is we are all already forgiven. The blood paid for all. We only need to receive. Many Christians don't seem to get that. Make it wacky, in my opinion. Yeah, I would say so. A lot of extra energy into it, but there's a particular verse. What is it? It says, 1 John 2:2. He is the propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world. 1 Peter 3:18. For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the spirit. Hebrews 10:10. And by that we will have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once and for all. All right, well, that's about it for me. Better go get some sleep. But much love to everybody. Have a great evening or morning, as it were, wherever you are, whenever you are. Happy Friday coming soon. And yeah, no idea when I'll be back. But until then, much love, be well, and stay trusty.